Okay. So, I was asked to go over two problems from section 5.5. First off, I want to go over number 7, and then we're going to go over number 22, which is a longer proof. So, 7 is simply ask you, give a reason for the list that explains why it is not possible for each figure to be a parallelogram. And then it gives you the list of what it is to be a parallelogram. Parallelogram says that opposite sides are parallel to each other and also congruent. So the fact that this is 21, this is 22, right there negates the very first one that it gives you. Okay? So the fact that these are not congruent to one another automatically means that this is not going to be a parallelogram. Okay? But to go over everything for a parallelogram, opposite sides are congruent. Not only that, opposite angles. So this angle, it should be congruent to this angle. My drawing's a little off, but you get the idea. So these are not going to be the same. Those are not the same. So therefore, this is not a parallelogram. Because opposite sides are not congruent. Okay. So that takes care of number 7. Let's move on to number 22. That's the longer proof. So I wanted to make sure I got that picture drawn in nicely. So I'm going to go and I'm going to erase this right now. And then we'll go over number 22. Nice part about the video, you could pause it to figure out what it was that I wrote down before I erased it. So now let's go ahead. Let's work on number 22. So on number 22, we are given, let me scroll down on my laptop. We're given that A, B, C, D is a parallelogram. So it kind of goes hand in hand with everything that I just finished talking about on number 7, because the fact that they tell me that it's a parallelogram means that I can already take into account everything that they just gave me. Okay? And then I'm asked to prove that triangle ABC is congruent to triangle CDA. Okay. So there's our statement and our reason. So first, let's start off with the fact that this is a parallelogram. The fact that it's a parallelogram means that these two sides, AD, is going to be parallel to BC. Okay. Not only that, it also means that AB is going to be parallel to DC. Okay. So that's what we'll start off with. First one, I'm limited on space, so I'm just going to write the given. Okay. From there, the next statement is actually filled in for you guys. The next statement says that AD is parallel to BC. And that AB is parallel to CD. Okay, and the reason for that, definition of a parallelogram. So by definition of parallelogram, Okay, so then now we get to move on to the very next ones. Now, anytime they give you lines are parallel, they want you to use what you learn on section 5.4. Okay, so if these two lines, AD is parallel to BC, that means that AC is my transversal. And if those two lines are parallel to one another, let's denote that here. So if those two lines are parallel to one another, that means that this angle is going to be congruent to that angle. And then they actually end up being alternate interior angles. So if I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to mark that down right over here, I get that angle DAC is congruent to angle BCA. And the reason is already there for you guys, and that's because AD's parallel are alternate interior angles. Are congruent. Okay, so using that same thought process, now if I switch it up and I'm focusing on these two, I'm focusing on AB and CD. I still have my transversal of AC, but now I get to say that these two angles are going to be alternate interior to one another. Okay, so now I get to say that angle BAC is congruent to angle DCA. And same reason. So alternate interior angles are congruent. So now I've got these two angles. And the only other thing left for me to say, which is actually kind of written in for you guys, is the fact that AC is congruent to AC, and that's because it's reflexive. And then now I can say that the two triangles are going to be congruent to each other. Triangle ABC is congruent to triangle CDA, and the reason is because I have angle, a side, and an angle. So, that, don't mind all the little toys. So, I already said this was originally bought for when we first had my son Dominic, and the kids use it for toys more than anything else. Okay, so hopefully that was helpful. Anytime you're given parallel lines and there's a transversal, just know that they want you to use alternate interior angles are congruent to one another. So keep that in mind. I always draw them off separately to the side just so you can see exactly what's going on.